Now that we've built up our little foundation and we understand the basics and control principles, the reactions, the movement, we're going to be going into the actual techniques and the technical applications. So what we're going to be discussing in this volume is the sweeping basics and control. And a lot of the sweeping, as I mentioned in the last volume, is going to be based off of the butterfly sweep. So we're going to absolutely break down every single inch of the butterfly sweep, and then we're going to learn how to actually apply those butterfly sweeps with the different grip variations mentioned in the last volume, but we're going to be demonstrating when we would encounter those grip variations and how to use them. So we're going to look at the butterfly sweep mechanics, and then the underhook butterfly sweep, head and arm butterfly sweep, belt control butterfly sweep, etc., etc., and we're really going to delve into that. We'll look at knee kick variations of the butterfly sweep, gable grip variations of the butterfly sweep. So this section is going to be devoted to sweeping, and as I mentioned in the previous volume, a lot of the sweeps are going to be based off the butterfly sweep. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now we're going to finally break down the butterfly sweep. So without further ado, let's get right into it, because we're going to talk about a lot of things. We'll show multiple angles, so don't worry guys. But the first thing with the butterfly, we're going to teach it from an underhook, and then we're going to mention when we would get the underhook and stuff later. But the first common misconception with the butterfly sweep, let's talk about issues that we encounter. A lot of people that go for the butterfly sweep, big issue, they try to do it while they're flat. So something I see a lot is they get good grips, and then they try to fall back and almost do like a standing sumigashi type sweep, where they're flat on both shoulders, like so. Guys, it's really hard to elevate my opponent when I'm flat on my shoulders. There's a time and place for that, yes, but for the actual traditional butterfly sweep that we see a lot of good guys like Marcelo Garcia, Gordon Ryan, etc. use, we don't want to fall flat in this case, especially from the half butterfly guard. A strong butterfly sweep is going to be coming from being on your side. Another common misconception that I see with the butterfly sweep is people try to extend heel to butt really hard, right? They try to use all this quad muscle to sweep. Guys, the butterfly sweep happens because you're able to load your opponent onto your hip, and it's an elevation of your hip. It has nothing to do with your leg strength. It has everything to do with an elevation of your hip. So I'm a light featherweight, for context. I compete at 137. I consistently sweep for years people that are 200 plus pounds with the butterfly sweep, not because I have strong legs whatsoever. I have chicken legs. It's because I load them onto my hip and I use my hip to sweep them. It's actually an excellent sweeping tool for people that are bigger than you. So what I mean by that is when I make some type of connection, okay, and I sit up into my elbow, I don't ever want to fall flat. I want to fall to my side, and as I fall to my side, I want to make sure that I load my opponent up onto my hook. Okay, we're going to talk about different grip variations as well with the butterfly sweep. But for the purpose of demonstration, I'm just going to grab his elbow and pull his elbow to me. Okay, as I fall, I try to fall forward. I want my head to be almost in line with this knee for a traditional butterfly sweep. Okay, I'm almost falling into my opponent so that I'm on my side. And as I do so, my right leg, which will change the angle, has to retract as tight to my butt as possible. And I have to make sure that I'll be able to utilize the ball of my foot, my toes, to lift my hip. Because it's going to come from falling forward and lifting my hip, guys. So I'm going to be lifting my hip and loading my opponent onto my hook and continuously lifting. And the more that I lift, the more that I'm going to be able to sweep my opponent, because his weight is going to transfer to the right side. So, for example, I'm here. I was in the half butterfly. I stood up. I retract my bottom leg, and now I'm going to fall forward, and I lift. Do you see how as I lift, my opponent naturally has the tendency to put all his weight to his left knee? So all of his weight is right here, guys. At this point, an extension of my left leg would be very easy, but I still don't want to sweep yet, because some people are very good at backstepping. So before I sweep, I want to make sure that 90% of his weight is on this leg. Right now, about 70 is. So what do? I lift my hip. Okay, now my hip is up, and we're going to change the angle. And now he's completely on my hook. I haven't done anything, and Ty's about to fall. I've done nothing. So as I continuously keep going, then I extend my hook. I extend my hook at the minute that I feel he's already off balance for extra momentum. So again, if I change the angle, learning the traditional butterfly sweep here, right? He's on his knees. Look, I fall forward and lift my hook. Guys, this has to be very tight. My knee is pointing this way and my hook is pointing out so I can make a wedge. You should be able to move your opponent with your hook. You see how I can move him? Now look, I move and push into him. You see how my hip is up? I continue to lift my hip. Okay, at this point that he's falling, now I extend. So from the half butterfly, there's various situations where we get there, which we're going to talk about. But guys, you want to get your underhook or whatever, pull the elbow to you. And now look, see how I turn? I'm falling forward, guys. I'm pushing into him. So guys, I got my brown belt from Marcelo Garcia. He teaches the butterfly sweep as a throw. He says it should feel like you're throwing your opponent. And for some reason, when I was a lower belt, that like put a light bulb off in my head and really let me understand that the butterfly sweep is more of a hip throw than it is an actual hook sweep. And when you understand that, I think it helps you realize how you need to implement it. So a couple other details on the butterfly sweep. Along with our grip variations that control the upper body, our grip variations that control the posting hand are always going to differentiate from the half butterfly guard. We're showing it from a traditional butterfly so you can understand the mechanics, but it will be from a half butterfly. One thing that I've learned through experience is that the grip that I just demonstrated this with, the elbow grip, where I tighten my elbow to my ribs, is actually not the best grip to sweep a high level opponent with. Now, a lot of people teach techniques that are going to be, world dominant and beat world-class people, which is amazing. I think those are the best techniques to learn. But in reality, most of us at our academy are not trying to beat the Gordon Ryans and the Bucheches of the world. We're just trying to beat our friend. And we want to go to the gym and submit our friend. So that grip variation works really well against those guys. This grip variation for the butterfly sweep is the one that I use most common. But when you're going against a really good guy, a guy who competes, a young athletic competitor, you don't want to give them an underhook. So from my personal experience, I used to train with a friend of mine who was a purple belt world champion at light feather. If I ever gave him the underhook for the butterfly sweep, he would use it against me. And so as I swept, he would start to use the underhook and it became increasingly difficult. And I found that if I pinned his wrist inside or turned his elbow inside, my butterfly sweep percentage increased exponentially. Now again, being honest, I don't sugarcoat things. Most of the time I just take it and I go, right? Because most of the time I'm not rolling with world beaters. But if I'm rolling with somebody who I know is extremely good, I try to do as much as I can to pin that wrist in or turn that elbow in, because then they have no post. Does that make sense? You don't want to give up that underhook. So that's a subtlety on gripping variations that I always like to mention, because so many of us wonder how everything works so well, and then we go against one really good guy and he just continuously shuts down the butterfly sweep. Oftentimes you're doing everything right and it's just the grip that you gave him. So when we're in the half butterfly, we're here, right? If we can pin the wrist in, we can load onto our hip, right? And we can start to lift. We might have more success than if we give him the underhook. So it's just something I like to mention. But remember, guys, it's all about your hip. It's all about your hip. It's all about falling into your opponent, pushing into them, lifting, and then starting to sweep. So now we're going to start looking at specific grip variations. So let's get into it and talk about the underhook. Now that we understand the butterfly sweep mechanics much more in depth, we're going to take those and start to implement them. So as I mentioned multiple times in this video, there's going to be a bunch of different sequences we use to sweep. We're going to be starting with the most powerful and the most popular, which is the underhook variation. So the underhook variation is going to come up from different scenarios, which we're going to explain here. One scenario we'll encounter where we use the underhook variation is just we're in a roll and we're in our basic control position. He's not passing, I'm not being so aggressive, and so I'm going to initiate a sweep by going for the butterfly sweep. So guys, if we're just here controlling, he's pushing into us, we're keeping him away. Typically, as he pushes into us, it gives us an opportunity to pummel our hand inside for the underhook while we simultaneously retract our bottom leg and sit up to our elbow, essentially going into a full butterfly. So he's pushing into us, we come here, and we go into this position. Notice my head placement, guys. My head placement is low, about at his shoulder. I want to get my head on the side that I'm sweeping to, okay? And I'm going to fall forward and bring my head about to his knee. Remember, always trying to fall forward, guys. This concept is going to take your butterfly sweep to the next level. So take it a step further than falling straight to your side. Try to fall into your opponent. As you fall into your opponent, retract your left hook so that you load him onto your hip and grab this elbow grip, okay? And like so, I fall into him. I start to load him onto my hip. Okay? Guys, if you're able to clamp his hand with your elbow, It's going to mitigate a lot of the opportunities that I mentioned in the last video where I give him a full underhook. The full underhook is when I come up here. But if I'm able to clamp his hand with my elbow here, it's going to make a huge difference. But guys, I'm falling onto that so that he doesn't have as much of a post. He can only bring his hand so far now. Now I start to use my toes to lift my opponent. I'm keeping a low underhook. It's definitely a detail that should be mentioned. I'm not trying to shuck up high. I'm just keeping his belt. And guys, my elbow is framed parallel with my body. So it goes down my rib line and up my quad. Why? I don't want any space for him to get an underhook at any point. So I'm keeping this super tight. Okay, we're going to change the angle in a second. Now I start to fall into him. I lift, 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 and then I'm going to extend my hook while keeping it very sticky. A lot of people like to sweep and then retract the hook like so. I'm not a fan of doing that at all. I find that with really good guys, it gives them that millisecond to scramble back, and then I'm not able to solidify the sweep as well. There's no right or wrong in jiu-jitsu, and I always preach that on my YouTube channel. If somebody does it that way and it works for them, that's completely fine. I'm not saying that this is the best way and this is the only finite way to do something, but it's worth mentioning that me personally, I don't like to do that. I like to follow up with the hook, and then I like to pummel my leg out. And we're going to talk about passes in the next volume, but I extend, and then I would move my leg here because now I have base. If he turns into me, I can keep him back, and I can start to solidify my sweep. So again, we're here. The underhook, this is our first variation of where it comes from. We have our frames. He's pushing into us. We're controlling the bicep. We pummel, we sit up, and we grab. You got to be quick with that, like we did in our movement. I sit up, retract, and I grab his arm. And now look, I start to fall into him, guys. Look where my head is. I start to fall into him. Load, load, and I start to sweep. Okay? So that's our first situation where we would encounter that underhook. The second situation is going to be if he gets a cross face and starts to turn onto this hip. Yes, just like this. Guys, super common position that we encounter a lot. So guys, when he does this, I have the underhook. So he's turning to his hip to avoid the underhook. So in this case, I have to sweep with everything I have because I have one opportunity to sweep him here. And if it doesn't work, he's going to pass my guard. So he's already sacrificing his posting hand by giving a deep crossface and turning onto his hip. I like to reassure that he's not going to be able to post by grabbing his elbow and alleviating some of that crossface pressure. But now guys, I'm going to use the underhook to kind of punch up diagonally towards the sky as I sweep. But guys, before I sweep, I have to extend and retract that bottom leg again like so. Okay, I have to get this leg out. If I just sweep like this and I don't get my leg out, it's going to be problems for me. So as I sweep, I have to make sure, the most important thing here, whether you sweep or not, to avoid getting your guard pass is going to be to make contact with your right foot on the mat. So first and foremost, I want to do this. Because once I get my right foot to the mat, whether I sweep or not, it's going to be, he probably won't pass my guard because I can solidify and stay mobile. Okay, now I would punch up and I would sweep, keeping that foot really sticky. So again, we're here and here. He comes down, we get the underhook, he turns onto his hip. Exactly. Guys, I got to go quick. I got to make sure to assist that I block his posting arm. Even though he's cross-facing me and he's essentially taking out his own posting arm, good guys here still have amazing base. So again, I want to punch up and get my foot to the mat. And then start to extend it. And then we switch. So let's start. So guys, our first butterfly sweep with the underhook, we're just here in our basics and control. We go for the underhook, we extend and retract, and we bring our foot. You see how quickly I bring my foot to my butt, my heels to my butt, my toes are on the mat. I'm going to fall forward as I bring that posting hand off. I start to lift, extend, and sweep. So one more time. We're here. We got the underhook. Extend, pull. Guys, you see my underhook? I'm nice and tight here. I'm not way up here like this. Because then he has room for the whizzer and the overhook. So I want to keep low. He tries to whizzer, tries to overhook. It's hard. Okay, and then I start to lift, and extend. So that's our first variation. Our second We're here in the half butterfly. He dives for the crossface, turns to a hip, but we kept our hand low, and we still have a good underhook. Okay? Now my right hand assists by grabbing his elbow and making sure he's unable to post. Okay? Guys, if his knees are pinched here, and we don't feel like we're going to be able to get our leg out, we're going to do something different. But if we feel like he's loose or he might try to backstep, then we're going to keep him clamped. Because some guys are trying to backstep. I keep clamped. Now I can feel when he's backstepping, I'm going to extend, punch, and get my foot to the floor. Guys, it's important to get this foot here. Because you have to turn to your side. So again, we're here. I feel he's trying to backstep. I block. And then I come up. So guys, that second butterfly sweep when he's on his hip is going to be much harder than the first one, given you're in a more precarious position. So don't be discouraged if you don't hit it right away. But if you practice and you get a good extension of your butterfly hook and you draw your toes, it will be good and it will work. But again, if you go and try and hit it right away and it doesn't work, don't be upset. It's hard to learn things like this right away. So that second one's a more precarious position. The first one's more your offensive. So try it out, guys. So now we probably have a good understanding of how to butterfly sweep. So we just looked at the butterfly sweep with the underhook. Excuse me. Now we're going to be looking at the butterfly sweep with an overhook and head and arm control. Or not head and arm control, with the belt control. So let's take a look at why we do that. Guys, this is my opinion, one of the best butterfly sweeps from the half butterfly and one of the most functional. Why? Because it happens when we're in a super precarious position where we're being smashed. So the reason that I initially started learning the half butterfly, for some context, is when I would compete, I had a very flexible game as a blue purple belt, and I would always try to Bremolo and use the De La Riva and stuff like that. And when the plan failed, it was because somebody was able to force the half guard on me and start to pass with underhooks, cross faces, etc. So when they would pass with the underhooks and cross faces, I didn't really have a game plan for it. You know, they kind of nullified my flexibility and they nullified the game that I wanted to play. So I had to dig deep and find out why what traditional half guard wasn't working for me and what I could do. And so something that I started to utilize super effectively pretty quickly was the half butterfly. And I wondered to myself, I was like, man, why does nobody play the half butterfly guard? Because I couldn't find any good stuff on it. And it's just something that I think a lot of people stray away from because the learning curve might seem a tad bit discouraging because you try to sweep, they pass, and you're like, it doesn't work. But when you understand the mechanics of it, it works super well when you're getting smashed. Super well. So he underhooks and cross-faces me. Practically the worst position in jiu-jitsu. Right? Terrible, terrible position. One of the most popular passing positions, especially statistically. If you look at high-level jiu-jitsu, a lot of people pass from this position, both in gi and no gi. So what can I do with my butterfly hook to prevent this? So from my experience, when guys do this, they're typically very far forward and their weight is all on their upper body. And what ends up happening is a lot of people that tend to focus on their upper body lose sight of what's going on with the lower body. And so at that point, they're not as concerned with the butterfly hook. They want to smash you, they want to keep pressuring into you, and they want to keep you down. Which is fine, because it allows us an opportunity to start to sweep them. Now, remember, the butterfly sweeps, we have to be on our side. So at some point, we have to turn to our side. But just because we have to be on our side doesn't necessarily mean that we need an underhook or anything. Now, whether we're in this position and we were already in half butterfly, or we were in the half guard and we just hip escape and we put the butterfly hook in, it doesn't matter. So I definitely want to mention that because sometimes you're playing traditional half guard or they're knee cutting and you get stuck here. Well, guys, you can always switch to half butterfly by doing a hip escape and putting the hook in. Okay? Once we get the hook, guys, we can grab the belt if we have the capability. If we can't grab the belt, we can grab the gi. Okay? So we have an underhook or an overhook control, with the gi or the belt. Now, since he has this crossface, he's sacrificing his post, but I always like to reassure that he's not going to be able to post by grabbing this bizarre grip under here and grabbing his elbow. I used to do something a little different where I would say I was grabbing the phone like so, but I found that kind of limited my ability to sweep. I still sweep like this occasionally to lock his arm in place, but now I just prefer to grab and cup his bicep. I think it's more effective. So I grab his belt if I'm able to. And guys, what I'm going to do is immediately start to turn and fall into the sweep like so. But as I do so, I want to pull his elbow down. So look, guys, again, that movement we did in the first volume, the extension and the retraction of my bottom hook is going to be paramount here. So watch, I do this. Okay, I retracted my hook. Guys, if you can see here, we're going to change the angle. My foot is out. That's critical, guys. As soon as I do that, we're going slow for the purpose of demonstration. I would have already started sweeping, right? I grab the belt. I'm on my shoulder now. I'm not flat. It's very important to note that. And I'm going to fall into him like so. And I sweep. I have a good crossface. And we're going to talk about connecting passes in a little bit. So again, we're in the worst position in jiu-jitsu, essentially. He starts to smother us. He's putting all that pressure in, right? We can't succumb to the pressure. We have to deal with it. I grab, cup his bicep, try to alleviate some of that pressure. I come here and I grab his gi if I can't grab his belt. That's fine. Now, guys, I have to turn to my side quickly as I extend my left leg, the bottom, or the butterfly hook, and retract my bottom leg. And then I start to sweep. Okay, let's change the angle. So again, guys, we're here. Whether we started in the half butterfly or whether he was smashing us and we just did a hip escape and put the hook in, we have to get that butterfly hook in. Now look, I grab up high if I can, right? Try to grab his belt. If I can't grab his belt, that's fine. I grab his gi, okay? If I don't have the gi, I just cup, okay? We're going to talk about that in a second, but I'm here. I grab the belt. Look, I cup his bicep. And guys, extend and retract. Okay, now look, I'm loaded. I'm going to push into him. And I start to sweep. One more time. So guys, we're here. I grab the belt, right? He's smashing me, put pressure. He's really smashing me, guys. The more pressure he puts, the better. I sweep. Guys, a lot of this is going to be predicated on making sure you're able to get to your side and making your hook functional. If you don't have your hook functional and sticky, and I'm going to explain what that means, it's going to be hard to sweep. What I mean by that is, let's go over here. Guys, your hook, I mentioned this already, but you have to be able to move his leg with your hook. You have to keep this flexed. Do you guys see my foot? I don't want my foot to be flimsy like this. I have to flex it. And look, guys, I'm turning my knee this way and my foot out so I can keep his leg moving with my hook. I'm not like this. That's super weak, guys. I have to keep my foot flexed, turning. It's such a simple, subtle thing that a lot of high-level players don't do. And you just have to have, my first coach said sticky hooks, sticky hooks, sticky hooks. I was like, what in the heck are sticky hooks? And he explained, he's like, you gotta flex your foot like you're flexing your calf. You know, hook your foot onto them and become stuck to them. And that really resonated with me, and I hope it resonates with you guys, because guys, if your foot is flimsy, it's gonna be way heavier to carry him, and it's gonna be way harder to move him. So practice those sticky hooks and try the butterfly sweep out. So we looked at the butterfly sweep when getting smashed in the gi and how we control the belt or the material. Now I want to discuss when you're getting smashed no gi, how you can use head and arm control variation to sweep. It's not going to be much different, and to be honest, that's one of the biggest benefits of the half butterfly guard. It translates from gi to no gi really, really well, and I've always tried to develop a game that for the most part was easy to go from one to the other. I never wanted to become dependent on like a warm guard and then get thrown into no-gi and just be absolute trash because I couldn't use the lapel. So I'm here with the half butterfly. I'm getting smashed. Super popular pass in no-gi. Guys, obviously in this point, if it was no-gi, I don't have a belt to grab, nor do I have material. So I have to make some type of grip with my hand, something, right? I don't want to just keep my hand here, especially if it's sweaty and the guy's not wearing a shirt. Most people are wearing rash guards. So what I want to do is almost punch my arm so that I can get enough space for my four fingers to hook inside his armpit or on his lat. I want to make some type of grip here. Okay? So I'm essentially hugging him. Right? At this point, since he's weighted into me, I want to grab his elbow and keep tight on his elbow. So now I have a variation of what we would see as head and arm control. So for sit up. So for example, if we were sitting up, we're kind of like this, right? Head and arm control would be a little bit more, we're stuck to the guy like so, but if we can't make that hand-to-hand connection, that's fine, just grab his elbow. If you can make that hand-to-hand connection, that's fine. You can also use a traditional head and arm control. Because what I find, being honest, when you do this butterfly sweep and the guy's pressuring into you, oftentimes you don't even need to block the post. So if I grab this gable grip head and arm, that works. I like to cup here and reassure myself that he won't post, and I grab here. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing that we've been doing in all these butterfly sweeps. I'm going to extend the butterfly hook, retract the bottom hook, heel to butt, plant off of my toes as I turn to my shoulder and start to sweep into him, into him. I can't stress that enough, guys. I can't emphasize enough that I'm trying to push into my opponent, like so. Okay, now I'm on my side, even if he pushes into me. That's fine. Once I start to lift my hip, guys, it's easy to sweep. Don't worry, we're going to look at chaining passes in a second. Now if I have the traditional head and arm gable grip, okay, same thing. Extend, retract. I'm here, keeping nice and tight. My head placement's still right below the shoulder, pushing into my opponent, and I sweep. Guys, all these sweeps are going to be dependent not on the grip variations, but on the mechanics of the butterfly sweep. Head placement, hook placement, hip placement, all that stuff is going to be so important. So let's change the angle. So we're getting smashed, right? He's crushing us. We take the hand, we grab here, right? We have to get to here, cupping the armpit. My right hand cups the bicep, pulls down the elbow, extend, retract. Now, guys, I go. If I want to use a traditional head and arm, that's fine, guys. I'm here, I grab the gable grip, I keep nice and tight. Okay, now I'm going to extend and retract. Okay, I follow up, and I sweep. It may seem counterintuitive initially, because day one jiu-jitsu, we're taught what? Create distance in the guard. So if somebody's smashing you, don't hug them. Because if you remember your first day, or like the white belt spaz, when they're on top of you, or when you're on top of them, pardon me, what do? They hug you. They hug you as tight as they can, which is so counterintuitive because they should be pushing you, and you're squeezing their face, right? But when you start to get more experience and you understand where things can be utilized, it's okay to use that head and arm control to pull them into you. Because at this point, we're trying to make their weight more pronounced on their side. So we want to pull them up so that their lower body's light, so that our hooks can do the work. And if we don't succeed in the butterfly sweep, we're going to be able to go into a more traditional butterfly guard scenario, which we're going to be talking about. Now we're going to look at one more unorthodox sweeping method with the half butterfly guard. So we've talked about the underhook. We've talked about the overhook with the belt control. We've talked about the head and arm control. We've talked about kind of cupping the armpit with no gi. Now we're going to look at a gable grip variation that recently has kind of exploded with popularity due to guys like Gordon Ryan, in the past Marcelo Garcia, kind of using it to shoulder crunch. I do the same thing. It's such a good grip, and when used properly, it works so well to either sweep or just to recompose to a strong position, because you're going to have a lot of opportunities off this. When we talk about submissions, I'm going to show a couple different armbar variations that I use off of this. So right now we're kind of going to ignore those and go for the sweep, but let's get into it. I call it like just a gable grip butterfly sweep variation. So let's turn this way a little. So we're here, we have the half butterfly, and this can come from different scenarios like with any of the other ones. One, it can just be that we're here cross-facing, we feel like he's trying to pressure into us. We can let him and we can start to hunt for this arm. Okay, that can be one. The other can be that we're already getting smashed and almost in like a head and arm choke. So he's keeping his head low here and we have problems. Guys, anytime that this scenario comes about, we have to make sure that our elbow line comes to his ear. We can never have his ear on our tricep. So that's problems, huge problems for me. So whenever you see that, try to shuck and frame your elbow back in, guys. That should be the first order of action, the first priority. Defend what's coming, which is an arm triangle. So once I get back to here, guys, oftentimes I can make that hand-to-hand connection and I can start to try to attack this arm. But since I'm so flattened, it can be hard to get to the arm. So oftentimes I like to use kind of a mean crossface with my left elbow and this gable grip, crunching super tight on his shoulder to turn and get back to my side, like so. Okay, at this point, guys, I have my grip super tight on Ty's shoulder, right? Clamping down. My head is glued to his forearm so he can't move his arm. I like to make the joke when I teach this in class that imagine you're at the grocery store holding a bunch of stuff and someone calls you and you're on the phone and you're kind of like this trying to talk and juggle the groceries. Keep that super tight, right? That ear to forearm connection. Keep the gable grip super tight. Details on the grip is that the top hand is palm facing me, no thumb interlacing. Bottom hand is palm facing up, no thumbs. Okay, here, nice and tight, guys. Now, I'm super tight here because I don't want him to pull his arm. I don't want him to pull his arm in. Okay, now I'm in that butterfly sweep position that we've been doing because I extended my left hook and retracted my right one in this case. And now what can I do? I can start to sweep, but I can use the elbow to flare up on his head and lift his body up as I fall into him and sweep. And we're going to be talking about passing, but here I like to pummel and start to attack the arm anyways. So that's one variation. So we're in this position. We were flattened out. Maybe he had almost the arm triangle. Maybe he didn't. But guys, I have to use this 2-on-1, this gable grip, to push him away, guys. It's essentially a 2-on-1. I'm using two of my hands against his head. As I do so, I'm crunching and I'm turning to my side as I extend my butterfly hook and retract my center one like so. Guys, flare up on the elbow. Don't elbow your partner in the face, okay? Just flare it. Don't give him a quick Muay Thai bow. Just flare your elbow and turn. Like so. So stay up. So if he falls like that, take the sweep. If he doesn't fall, we're using that hook to keep extending and we're going for it here. So that's one variation. Our second is maybe he's not doing anything and maybe we want to try to attack the arm, but when we do, he goes elbow deep. So we try to go for the arm and he goes elbow deep like so. Okay, so a defense to the inverted arm lock that we're trying to get here is to keep that elbow tight. So now what do? Extend the butterfly hook, retract the middle hook, start to come up, 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 and sweep. So let's change the angle. So guys, we're here, we're getting smashed. We make that 2-on-1 gable grip. We keep our opponent away, making a good frame. Now, he's elbow deep. Maybe he's avoiding the inverted arm lock threat. Maybe he's worried that you're going to try to submit him. Whatever the case may be, we're going to turn to the side like we've been doing with all our butterfly sweeps, extending the butterfly hook, retracting the middle leg, or the leg in between his legs, and then I'm going to start to sweep using this grip. So again, like so. Okay, I'm nice and tight, my ear is glued, trying to keep my head to the mat at this point so he can't pull out his arm, and I sweep. One more time. Maybe this time he was up, we were fighting, I go for the arm lock and he dives his elbow deep. Boom, can't get the arm lock. I have to move quick, guys. I'm going slow for the sake of demonstration, but if I just hang out here, it's not going to work. So while my elbow's under his throat and while I have this tight gable grip, extend, and I sweep. Guys, Ty can attest to that. I'm putting a lot of pressure on that frame hand. A lot on his neck and a lot on his face and underneath his jaw. It's a subtle detail that unfortunately you guys can't feel through the camera, but it's something that I can't emphasize enough, guys. You've got to be tight on that grip. If you're loose, it's going to be a harder grip to use. And I don't like to sugarcoat things. This variation of the butterfly sweep is more technical and harder to apply than the other ones that we've previously seen, but still very, very effective. Especially no-gi, just a harder learning curve. So if you try it out and you don't hit it, don't be discouraged. Keep going, keep working it, keep trying. At this point, we're becoming masters of the butterfly sweep, right? We've got the underhook sweeps, we've got the overhook sweeps, we've got the head and arm sweeps, the gable grip sweeps. We have a lot of different grip sequences to work our sweeping variations off of. So now we're going to take it a step further and we're going to add one of my favorite methods of the butterfly sweep, which is the knee push. The knee push is something that I think is severely underutilized throughout the jiu-jitsu community and is probably my favorite way to engage with somebody who's much larger than I am, because it completely takes the base out from underneath them and there's no dependency on strength, athleticism, or flexibility. You just have to be precise with where you push the knee. So let's take a look at that from here. So guys, I'm in this position. I get the half butterfly guard, okay? I have good control of my opponent. We understand the basics in the control. So let's look at the knee push first from the gable grip, and then let's look at it from different variations. The knee push is going to be dependent on that retraction of your bottom leg, so your right leg in this case, since my left is the butterfly hook. So imagine I get this gable grip, right? I have good control over my opponent, and I want to sweep him. But as I go to turn to my side, rather than retracting my right leg all the way to my butt, I'm going to retract my right knee as high up to my chest as possible so that I can place the ball of my toes on his knee, like so. Okay? I want my foot here. We're going to change the angle so you guys can see. But what I'm going to do is continue to sweep, but now the sweep is not dependent on my hook. Okay? It's dependent on the knee. Push. The push of the knee off balances him enough. Okay? And now my hook barely does any work. So let's do that again from here. Let's imagine I have the underhook. Okay? I sit up and retract my foot. And now look, I bring my foot to his knee. We're going to change the angle. But guys, I want my foot on his knee like so. Guys, my sweep is no longer dependent on pushing into him as much. It's dependent on this. He'll fall even without my hook. My hook is just an added addition. Just like when with our regular butterfly sweep, we're loading him onto our hip and our hook is just helping us a little bit. Same concept here. We're pushing him off of his knee and our hook is just helping us a little. So I'm here and then look, I push. He's already falling and I just barely use my hook to continue. So whatever variation of the butterfly sweep we use that with, right? Whether it's the head and arm, right? I'm here like this, I extend, I draw my leg out, I push, and I come up. Whether it's the gable grip, right? So we're here, we get the gable grip, get my leg out, extend. That sweep is so effective when we do the knee push. So let's change the angle and let's go here. So guys, I have to draw this leg, my middle leg, out. So without any grips or anything like that, I want to extend and draw my leg out. Can you posture up? I want this leg to be on the top of his knee, guys. The ball of my toes right here, anywhere in this general vicinity. And I want to make an extension of my foot, but I want my foot to essentially slide down the mat, guys. Okay, I don't want it to be too high. I want my foot to slide down the mat, like so. Okay, so when we do it from the half butterfly, we're here, we extend our left hook, retract our right, turn, get our foot here. Look, I'm going to extend. Do you guys see? And now I use my elbow and my hook to keep sweeping, and I come up. To take the knee push a step further, it's a great way to engage, even just from an open guard scenario. So anytime somebody's pressing forward, you can always knee push, and it's something that I love to do from the half butterfly guard. Because as people go onto your knees, just to show you the concept of the timing, back up. So if I'm here, the guy's trying to engage, I move back. Tries to engage, I move back. Then I kick his knee, and I can start to attack. Anytime somebody's pressing forward, like in a traditional half guard like we're looking at, and their weight is all the way up, their butt is off their heels, if you kick that knee, they're going to fall to that hip. And so it's going to make that side of their body carry all the weight, and the butterfly sweeps or the hook sweeps are going to be so much easier. So I definitely urge you to try this. Again, like with anything in this series, it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, so if you try it and you mess up, don't be discouraged. Keep trying it. That knee push is so effective on guys that are bigger than you. So definitely go out there, give it a shot. So guys, let's look at another angle for that knee push sweep so you guys can really see the work that my right leg is doing as I retract it. So guys, we're here. Okay, let's imagine we have the gable grip, right? We're in this position, we're trying to sweep. Look, I extend the left leg and retract the right. Guys, I have to kind of straighten my back to get that leg out. This is one of the rare instances where if you're a little bit flatter to butterfly sweep, that's okay. Because you're not really doing a traditional butterfly sweep. This is almost a different sweep entirely. Because like I said before, the off-balancing component is you pushing his knee. It's not the hook. The hook is just there to aid you. So as you extend, the hook is just aiding you. And you come up. So one more time. Whether you do that on the underhook sweep, so I sit up, grab his arm, sit back, and I bring my foot here, it doesn't matter. It's a little bit different, so you can almost fall flat for a second. But guys, I slide my foot down the mat. It's hard to go slow. Extend, 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 extend. So come back. So when I do it real time, he's just rolling over. So let's look at it one more time, a little faster with the gable grip. So again, we're here. We get the grip, extend, draw our foot out, and we come up, guys. Super good sweep, super easy. Give it a shot. So now that we have a pretty good understanding of how to butterfly sweep with a bunch of different grip variations, and we've seen the knee push sweep, which is another alternative method of hook sweeps that I really like to use, I think it's very, very important that we understand the concept of redirection. So oftentimes when we're in the half butterfly guard and we're unable to butterfly sweep from that position, we have to redirect to our strong side at the time. So I'm going to explain what I'm talking about right now. So let's imagine I'm in the half butterfly and Ty's smashing me. He's got the cross face, he's got the underhook. Terrible position. If I'm unable to sweep him this way, using the belt control, the head and arm control, the gable grip, I want to look at what I have against my opponent. So at this point, it's safe to say that butterfly sweeps with underhooks are typically higher percentage, typically. Again, like I said, everybody's different. Some people might be amazing at sweeping with the head and arm. Some people might be amazing at sweeping with the belt control. But for the most part, I think it's safe to say that the underhook butterfly sweep is going to be the predominant one that we see and the one that's more effective. So in this case, when he has an underhook and a crossface, where's my underhook at this point? Here's my underhook. Okay? Where's my overhook? Here's my overhook. So which posting hand can I block? This one. So oftentimes, if I've already tried to sweep the guy this way unsuccessfully and he came back into this position, or I just know that my opponent's good, rather than try to sweep with head and arm or belt control, what I'm going to do is use that extension of the butterfly hook and the retraction of my bottom hook to go into a traditional butterfly guard position, and then I'm going to sweep the other way by redirecting. So it's going to look like this. Step, 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 and I'm going to come here. Let's go back. So again, we're here. Like this, I just need to extend this way with my left hook, retract the right hook, and now look guys, I'm going to flatten out for a split second, and I'm going to extend my hooks and sit up quickly as I draw my head to the other side. Now where am I, guys? I'm in a strong traditional butterfly guard sweeping position where I will redirect my opponent this way. Okay, so one more time. So we're here in the traditional half butterfly. Maybe we've tried to sweep, he's too heavy on this side. Guys, maybe I can't even retract my bottom hook well because I can't even extend my left. So look what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the elbow inside of the knee to extend his knee as I draw my right hook out and flatten. Okay? Now, guys, very quickly I flatten as I'm simultaneously starting to sit up and extend my hooks. Head comes here, traditional butterfly guard, strong underhook, strong overhook, left foot draws, I fall forward, all the same sweeping concepts apply. Okay, load and extend. So guys, let's change the angle over here. So guys, we're here, we're flattened out. Let's turn it over. We're flattened out, guys. So look, I'm going to take my right hand and open his knee. And I'm going to draw my right knee out. Okay? Now guys, I flatten, straighten and extend, and I come here. Very important that your head goes to the outside of his shoulder. Don't come up like this. Okay? A good guy's going to hop right over your legs very quickly. Exactly. And you're going to have problems. But if I bring my head to this side and he tries to hop, I'm going to sweep him. Okay? So I have to be aware what my opponent's reactions might be. And in this case, head placement's going to be very important. So one more time. I'm here and here. Right? He's smashing me. Extend. Right away I'm here. Already falling into the sweep, guys. I preemptively drew my left hook out because I knew I was going to go for the butterfly sweep. I'm falling forward and I'm sweeping. Guys, it's very important that we're moving quickly, guys. We have to be ahead of our partner. Something that I always preach on my YouTube and when I teach is that oftentimes the person who's winning the match is the one who's dictating the pace. So although we're in a defensive position, if we're the one being more offensive and we're forcing our opponent to react to our techniques, we're probably going to be more dominant, right? Regardless of if we're in an inferior position. Obviously, there's times that you have to be purely defensive. But for the most part, as a good rule of thumb, if you dictate the pace of the match, you're going to be better off. So for example, even though he's smashing me, right, I'm not stopping, I'm pushing here, extending here, trying to sweep. If I don't sweep, I don't get it. That's okay, we move on to another technique, but you want to be the person who's creating that movement, creating that chaos that he has to respond to, putting him in your element. So that's almost as important as the technique itself. But guys, the concept of redirection is so important because don't just give up. If you tried one thing, it fails, try the next. It fails, try the next. Keep them moving. Keep them reacting, guys, as much as you can. Obviously, take it with a grain of salt. Most guys. Alright guys, so now that we've looked at redirections, various butterfly sweeps with different grips, and the knee push sweep, I want to talk about one more thing in this sweeping sequence that's a little unorthodox, but I think it's important to know because it's a reaction that you definitely might encounter, which is when we attempt to do our redirection and go into a full butterfly guard, if you've been giving your opponent problems in the half butterfly, there's a good chance they'll stand and just try to back out, disengage completely. So what that might look like is if I'm here, being flattened out in the half butterfly, I open my opponent's knee, draw my hook here, and I start to extend and sit up, he might try to just get away. Exactly. Guys, like with anything, and like I mentioned in the last technique, if he starts to get away from you, there are a lot of different options, and we'll save that for a different DVD. Shin to shins, single leg X pulls, ankle picks, etc. But one of the easiest and often overlooked options is to just come up on a double leg or single leg. Just follow him. Don't let him get away from you. Chase him down. Don't let him think he's out of the woods, right? Because off the failed double leg or the failed single leg, if you're not able to succeed, it will present even more opportunities. So this is all stuff I learned from Marcelo, where if the guy's trying to disengage, keep coming at him. If you know Marcelo Garcia, he hates when people run away. Like, he absolutely hates it. And I do too. Like, if we're trying to train, one of my worst favorite things, it's a total side note, is when you're with somebody or starting to roll at the academy and they just do this the whole time. They just don't want to engage. Man, I hate that. Like, it's one thing to grip fight, but it's another to just circle you for 3.5 minutes straight without ever even starting the roll. So it's kind of the same concept. Like, the guy's not doing the wrong thing. If you're in the half butterfly, you've been giving him problems and he wants to get up and out of there, man, I understand that. But don't let him, right? So let's look at it from this specific situation. We're here, he was flattening us, we open his knee, we come here, and now when we start to extend, maybe we don't have good connection. As we extend, he tries to bail out. Guys, I'm going to follow. I'm going to bring my hands over both of his knees. I'm going to try to pinch his knees together, and I'm almost going to do a blast double. I want my head in between his legs, preferably at his stomach. I want to hit him with my head as I pinch his legs together. Now, it's very important. It seems like such a crazy bull rush move, but it's actually very technical because as he sits up, I have to understand how to get up and rock into my takedown. So from the butterfly guard, and you can take this concept to open guard anytime you're playing it, when I rock in, one leg moves up, one heel draws in, and I come up, right? I come up and into my opponent so that I have driving power. If I try to get up from here, it's going to be really awkward, right? So I have to shift and pick which side I'm going to come up on, right? So these are good solo drills when you want to rock up and attack somebody. So if I'm here, I got to get up like this so that I have good driving force. So again, let's imagine maybe we're just playing half butterfly and he's kind of disengaging. We sit up, he starts to run, and I drive. Let's go a little slower. So we're here, we're playing the half butterfly guard. We go into full, we start to sit up, and he runs. Look guys, tuck this foot, hands open, don't let him get underhooks. Grab the knees and pinch, head to the chest, to the sternum. My back is straight, I'm not like this, guys. So I'm here, grabbing the knees, right? And I'm just driving forward as I pinch his knees. Okay? So one more time, we're in the half butterfly. My opponent's not doing anything. I start to go full butterfly, stand, gets up. And I start to take him down. Let's change the angle. Different scenarios might occur where we see this, right? Maybe we're flat. We get here, we start to extend, and he runs. And I start to drive him down, guys. More important than the technique is going to be the ideology of chasing him down. Don't let somebody just disengage. Even if you're just in the half butterfly, and he tries to stand. Start to come up, guys. Start to come up, wrap his legs, and start to take him down. Don't let him run away from your guard. If you're a competitor and you do that, it's 2 points. It's 2 points. And again, like I mentioned, it's a whole nother DVD series if I was going to talk about what to do against a standing opponent, especially from there. But this is one simple concept that I use a lot. And if you fail the double leg, you're still engaging him. So you can either stand up, engage standing takedowns, or you can start to pull him back into guard, but you're keeping a connection with him. What you don't want is for him to just run away. So just stand up for him, and you just have no connection. This isn't the end of the world at all. You're just an open guard. It's pretty neutral. But now you have to grip fight, and now you have to start to attack things. So it's different. Whereas if I'm here, he starts to get up and run. At least I keep something. Even if he backs this leg up, at least I have this leg. Right, now I can start single legs, I can pull into half guard, I can go shin to shin, I can start to elevate his leg, but I kept some form of connection, which is going to allow me to move into different things. So that's something I definitely wanted to touch on, because some people will just try to run away. It's inevitable. It's not the worst thing in the world for them if they're having trouble, so try it out, guys.